Okay, welcome to our weekly Kuntres Hahispa'alus class. And B'ezrat Hashem, we are progressing and we are completing paragraph 8. And in paragraph 8, Rabbi Hillel was pretty much asking a very, very vital question. So if the whole point is the revelation in the heart, the whole point is the revelation of oneg, and oneg, we know, is a pleasure, is atik yomin, and this is the first revelation of the soul, of the essence that comes through the oneg. And if so, why do we need to engage our mind with this oneness? What's the purpose of it? Okay, it's like kind of like this in-between stage, right? If we are accessing a higher faculty and we're bringing it into our heart, why we need to use our intellect? And it's a legit question. Now, he gave an answer to us that since there is this yichud, that pnimiyus Abba, pnimiyus atik, and in the inner dimension of chochmah, which is referred to as Abba, is the pnimiyus of atik, which is the pnimiyus of oneg. So to trigger oneg from being revealed, we need to engage our hispaalus. Okay. Then we went off into a whole discussion about what does this mean to be genuinely involved in any pursuit, okay? In any intellectual pursuit. So he gives this example of somebody who studies astronomy. And we discussed why is he giving such an example? Because studying astronomy has zero applications, zero practical applications back in those days. So why would somebody care what the moon made out of? It's just an intellectual pursuit, right? So now, if he truly wants to know the subject matter, truly it's irrelevant what the subject matter is. Okay, it could be medicine, it could be engineering, it could be literally anything. If he really is concerned about the subject matter and wants to know the truth of it, so then he'll get it. He's ready to pay the price of effort. However, if he has other motives other than understanding the truth of that subject matter, the truth will not reveal himself to that person, right? He will never be able to transcend the limitations of his own intellect. And this is what we're talking about, okay? So the motive is very essential to what will be unlocked for that particular individual. If the motive is to become great, if the motive is to become a big shot by the use of this particular information, this particular subject, okay, then there's a deviation from the truth. Therefore, the truth is not going to reveal to him. He might know a lot of things about that subject matter, okay? But he is not going to surpass his intellect. He's not going to really get the essence of it, okay? If the subject matter is not an interest of him, he wants to use it as means to reach greatness. So now, what he later does is that the same thing is with Torah knowledge, okay? If the whole idea of Torah knowledge is connection with Hashem, so then the truth is going to be revealed to him. Which is what? What do you think the truth is? The truth is the connection with Hashem. Meaning, he is calling on Hashem and he's learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, whatever else he's engaged in. His motive is clear that I'm doing this to connect myself with Hashem. So then in return, he's going to have the connection of Hashem because that's what he's seeking. So therefore, that sense of Hashem in the world is really going to reveal himself to that person's consciousness because this is what he's tapping into. If, however, his whole idea is to become this great mystic, this great rabbi, or Rebbetzin, and that everybody's going to love them, and he's going to be so famous, and everybody's going to be talking about him, and all that stuff, which might be a very attractive things for people, but at the same time, he's not going there for Hashem. He's going there for himself, for his own glory. So he's not interested in interacting with Hashem. He only wants to use the knowledge of Torah, whether it's Kabbalah, whatever else he's studying, or Hasidus, in order to become this great big shot. So his intellect it's not aligned in the right direction. So obviously he's not gonna get it. So there's no point of Hashem opening that door, because he's not knocking on the right door. He's knocking on the door of fame and greatness, which is fine. It's not that we're judging that person, which is fine. But to anticipate truth to be revealed, that's not going to happen. Okay, so this is where we left off, and I'm going to share my screen, and we could just move on with paragraph 9. Okay.
Mila, it's that person who's, let's say, going for greatness, and they do experience a moment of humility and humbleness and tshuva. So they could still reach emes.
Oh, for sure, because that's kavanah will change. His intention will change, for sure. A person could always do tshuva and come, from one extreme to the next. There's no questions about it. Nothing stands in the way of tshuva.
But also in our day-to-day life, being at that state of wanting emes is amazing. I personally can't say that we're there all the time. Like that's an avodah. It's day to day, even for people who are total emistic.
For sure, and that's why we daven 3 times a day. To do what? Why we need to daven 3 times a day and 4 times a day? Then you have to say Kriyat Shema L'Amidah. What's the purpose of it? It's to realignment. The whole purpose of davening is to realign ourselves with our own truth. Okay. We establish, who am I? And if you look into the text of davening, that's the purpose of it. We establish, who am I? We establish who is Hashem. We establish who is the one who's providing for us everything what we need. We establish what is our shlichus in this world. Okay. Just read the text and try to understand it. That's why it's very important to really delve into understanding of what davening is. We can really davening properly, because this is the realignment. This is where we are facing in front of Hashem, and we are realigning ourselves with the truth. That's why we need to do it 4 times a day, for sure. This is the reason, because we get swayed, we get persuaded into this world, okay, into hanachis of this world, and this world starts overpowering us, overpowering our consciousness in a very, very fine way. And we need to realign ourselves back again and again so we don't deviate. Okay? Okay, let's go. Now, but I think the point that he wanted to make, and he's going to continue making in the paragraph 9 as well, is to understand why we need to engage our brain. What's the purpose of it? Okay? In order to have a proper hispaalus, we need to engage on it. So why we need to do this is oneness. Why? If the purpose is to reach oneg, which is higher than the brain, and to bring it into our heart, which is lower than the brain, why we need brain to begin with? Why can't we just feel? Okay? Why not? So he's explaining this, right? Me'ata yuvan gam ken inyan hispaalus Elokus kasher shor shehi b'bchinas oneg shelemala min ha-chochmah. From this, we can also understand the matter of hispaalus for Elokus, right? When its root is from the level of oneg, which is above the chochmah. Dafka, shehu inyan oneg pnimi shebenefesh. Azi amitis dafka. Right, specifically that this oneg is pnimiyus oneg, is the inner delight with the soul, within the soul. Then, and only then, the arousal is genuine. Okay, otherwise it's fake. You know, you don't clap your hands and start dancing if you don't feel the joy, right? It's fake. We don't want to have fake things. Ach lo yocholis anek lehispaalus oneg kanal ki ima lidei amakas daas ubizboinenus davka. However, this delight, this inner delight, cannot be revealed except through hamakas daas, the deep concentration and izboinenus into Elokus, contemplation on divinity, right? So only through this we're able to tap into this inner oneg. So now we're going to demystify what's in these boinanus into Elokus. Okay, somebody once asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, what is Chassidus? In one word, can you explain me what is Chassidus? And the Rebbe gave a very interesting definition. The Rebbe said it's Chakira Elokis. It's research into God. It's interesting, right? It's beautiful. Like, wow. So what is Chassidus? Chassidus, that's what it means. Meaning he desires to understand and grasp the true nature of all worlds. This is what we do. Well, this is what hispaalus is. We want to understand the true nature of all worlds. To do what? Atzmus Ein that the true existence is the very essence of the divine light. Okay? So let's pause for a second. What is the purpose of hispaalus? The purpose of hispaalus, many people think that I'm like, I'm flying up, I'm connecting to God and all that. That's not the purpose of what hispaalus is. The hispaalus has one purpose, well, many purposes, obviously, right? But the main agenda of hispaalus is to see how this world is not separate from Hashem, how all the worlds are not separate from Hashem, and to see that the true existence is the very essence of godly light. This is what we're doing hispaalus for. And as a result, we will feel very close to Hashem. We will feel the closeness of God because the world is no longer an obstacle. Meaning the levushim in which Hashem encloses himself, okay, is not going to be separating our consciousness from Hashem himself. So this is a result. The closeness is a result of our efforts to see and to understand and grasp the true nature of all worlds, and that the true existence is the very essence of divine light. There's nothing but Hashem, because that's the ultimate conclusion that we come in after doing the hispaalus. Okay? Right? And not the world themselves, which are in truth no real existence at all. The world do not have real existence at all, for they are nothing in relation to him, Hashem. Okay, so that's what happens during these hispaalus. Okay. Ubechinas ha'amakazois hi ha'ala ma'im nukvim le'orer pnimiyus chochmah shebenefesh Elokis. Right? And this deep contemplation is the halas ma'im nukvim, right? Which is the ascent of feminine waters. We're not going into this, what that means. It's like its own subject, but it's our effort, meaning it's when the lower ones is rising higher, which is we are the lowest of low at the moment, and we are making our efforts, right? And this is our ascent upwards to arouse, and that's exactly what's going to arouse the pnimiyus of the chochmah, the inner faculty of chochmah within the godly soul, Lahavin in amitas haskola zois shakol oikmois v'tilim elav. Okay, so specifically the triggering of this inner faculty of chochmah within the nefesh Elokis to do what? To comprehend the true meaning of this perception that all worlds are utterly nullified to him. Okay, and this is what we're exerting our mind into, understanding how the worlds, they do not have their own existence. Okay, meaning they don't have a separate existence other than God. Now, that's not only enough to understand in some vague ways, that is to bring the vivid image of this idea into the letters, into the oisius, right? Because we want our body to be embedded with this concept, right? And that's where this is boinanus is that we want to bring it into the letters of his thought, which is the vessel of his mind. Okay, and when he is able to do that, right? When in his brain circuitry, this concept is engraved, right? And from Shar Yuchud class, we know that this is the level of tvuna. Tvuna is when the godly light of this idea doesn't just settle in the brain, but it's actually comes on the level of klita, becomes engraved in his brain. What happens with this? Through this, okay, and through this, he likewise arouses the pnimiyus of the oneg, the inner aspect of the delight, to take pleasure in this perception. Okay, so after this hard work, there's the release of endorphin. Okay, it's like, oh, then there is experience of the pleasure, right? It's like running the marathon. You reach a certain level after that physical exertion where the endorphin is released. That's what we do, dopamine, whatever else, whatever else chemistry Hashem orchestrates in our body to happen. And why does that happen? And the essence of this delight derives from the revelation of Atzmus Ein Sof, the essence of the infinite Hashem. Okay, so what brings about this pleasure is the revelation of God. The revelation of God comes in a very pleasurable experience for the person. Okay, so why is Hashem is revealing himself to him, to this person? Because he has intention. His intention is to know God. So God becomes known to him. Right? If person's intention is something else, then that thing becomes known to him. Okay? But if a person's intention is clarity, I want to have a relationship with God, Hashem reveals himself. Okay? Yet this delight is closed within this comprehension itself. Hahispa'alus Ein Sof b'chol ha'olamos ad she'einam chutz mitpashtusei klal chul, meaning that he delights in the awareness of the hispaalus, of the infinite light throughout all worlds, until they are no longer in his perception outside of his expansion at all. Okay, so why is he feeling this abundance of oneg? Is when it clicks in his mind that the world is not separate, that everything is bottled to him. And what he's experiencing through this is that Hashem makes this awareness in his mind expand as his consciousness expands, as he starts to understand, and it no longer becomes an intellectual understanding. It becomes an experience for him, okay? But it begins with an intellectual understanding. So that's why the key to this oneg is through his oneness. Why is it? Well, because everything what we experience through the circuitry of our mind. Our outlook at the world is through what was embedded in our brains when we were little by the schooling and society and everything else. So we never have a chance to really understand the truth of the world because we are conditioned to see world exactly from the perspective we are looking at. So how can you decondition yourself? Is when you actually learn Chassidus, because that's the true perception of what the world is. Okay. So what happens is that when we create that circuitry, we override the programs that we are programmed up until now. Okay, now our brain starts to experience a new reality and look at the world through that perspective. Because before it looked at the world as something separate from God. Now it has a different perspective through the study and through these boinanos. So then he'll have this aha moment. Okay, when finally Hashem meets him in the middle of the way, he says, "Hey, I'm here." Okay, and that's a pleasurable experience. Okay. Okay, ומזה מתפעל שהוא עניין גילוי ha-oneg בלבבו. Right, and from this he becomes emotionally aroused. This is being the revelation of the delight within his heart. ואחר כך בדיבור, באוסיוס התפילה, and afterwards he extends it into the speech, into the letters of prayer. המספרים בגדולתו וכולי, right, that recounts the greatness of Hashem. So first is this emotional arousal, and then he's able to, now it's almost the same in a relationship, between, let's say, a husband and wife, right? You're not going to be praising a person if you don't feel the emotion in the heart. Maybe you could just make a compliment just to be polite, okay? But in reality, the way it happens, we first have that emotional arousal, and then the words just flow. They're not empty words, they're filled with meaning and emotion. So the same thing is here, right? In this relationship, we first become emotionally aroused, right? And then we, in return, bring it into the words. ונמצא מובן מכל הנ"ל, שאין ההיספאלוס אמיתית רק כאשר מתחיל להעמיק ולהתבונן. So, from all of the above, it is clear that emotional arousal, hispaalus, is genuine only when one begins to delve and meditate solely with the intention to comprehend and attain the divine light itself. רק מצד הרצון להשכיל עצם עונג האלוקי כנ"ל. It is understood that the true delight is going to be, the true hispaalus is only going to be when he is kavana. Okay, the intention is to comprehend and attain divine light itself, nothing else. If he thinks about who knows what, he's not getting it. Okay, and he also desires that the truth of the bitul of all worlds to the living God should truly settle in his mind. That's his desire. He wants to see the unity of God in the world. That's what his soul desires. So what do you think is going to happen? He's going to get what he asked for. You see, Hashem is very, very kind. He gives us what we ask for. And we have to be very careful what we ask for and what our intentions are. Okay? Okay, Sha'azu maskil be'emes ha'inyan, right? And then he truly grasps the matter as explained. So now what's going to be this governing thing is going to happen through the revelation of the pnimiyus of the chochmah within his divine soul. And since his pnimiyus ha-chochmah is going to trigger, we already know the yichud pnimiyus ava pnimiyus oneg. His oneg pnimiyus oneg is also going to reveal himself, right? So consecutively, consequently, the pnimiyus of the oneg is revealed, as explained above. Hahispa'alus amitis. Okay, then his arousal is genuine. It's like, okay, מה שאין כן כאשר מתחיל להתבונן בכדי להיספל. On a contrast, when one begins to meditate only in order to become emotionally aroused, שעניין חפצו רק בהיספלוס. His main desire is hispaalus. He doesn't care about the other person. Okay? It's like this in relationship, is this womanizer. He just wants to have pleasure from women. He doesn't care about that woman. It doesn't matter for him. Right? So he's not interested in a relationship with that particular individual. Okay? He is interested in deriving pleasure. Okay? So the same thing could be with us and Hashem. We're not interested in Hashem, Chas v'shalom, right? We are going to do that in order to have high, in order to feel that pleasure. Right? And then if the excitement comes strongly and tangibly, okay, okay, and if it then he rejoices. And if it doesn't come, he is saddened, and so forth. Okay? So, who is this person? This is so. His main intention is to feel himself. That is to feel himself on a specific spiritual level. And that he will be able to attain lofty states. Okay, so that's his kavanah. And if so, he's not in a state of bittul. It's about him, and it's not about the relationship. It's not about how the worlds are batul to Hashem. It's about him feeling the pleasure. See the difference? So he's not in a state of bittul. What with him? So lo yigram halas mayim nukvim pnimiyus chochmah, and such contemplation, right, will not cause this mayim nukvim to go up, because mayim nukvim is have to be in a state of bittul in order for that spiritual process to happen. Okay, to reach the pnimiyus of the chochmah. So therefore, nothing will happen if there's no pnimiyus of chochmah. Chochmah is a state of bittul. If he's not in a state of bittul, there is no oneness is going to be triggered. Okay, lo yagiya gam ken lepnimiyus ha-oneg, and he will not draw down the pnimiyus ha-oneg. Umimele lo tiyah sagase amitis, and consequently, his comprehension will not be genuine. He will not understand the true things, and whatever he will understand will be full of mistakes. V'gam hispaalus lo tiyah amitis, and also his hispaalus is also not going to be genuine. Klal v'dal. That's it. So, right. That's like a, quite, a powerful paragraph. Okay. And here explains very, very beautifully and very, very clearly what happens when our intentions are not set on the right track. Okay. If our intentions are to feel the pleasure, to be on a high level, to experience, I don't know, I want to experience Atzmus. I'm so I want to go on that spiritual journey. So that spiritual journey is none other than a pursuit of self. Okay? It's a self-indulgence in a certain way. Like people get, I don't know, all kinds of different pursuits, and a person might actually get that pursuit as well. For example, there's actually a very weird story with the Baal Shem Tov. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's like very interesting. Once Baal Shem Tov came to one town, okay, and he saw this very tzaddik-like looking individual sitting on a stone next to Beis Medrash. And there's a line of people on Friday who are coming and, shaking his hands and saying, wow, Yashar Koyach, wishing him good Shabbos. And they're going into the shul. So Baal Shem Tov asked, what is this about? And he was told that this man is a very, very holy man, that he fasts from Shabbos to Shabbos. Okay. He's so holy. And everybody wishes, like everybody's impressed. I mean, we don't know that many people who could fast 1 week in a row. And this man just, sits on this big, beautiful stone, and everybody wishing him mazel tov. That's like, wow, not mazel tov, like, good Shabbos. So then Baal Shem Tov asked that for next Shabbos, they'll remove the stone from that place. Okay? That's what they did. They removed the stone. And what do you think happened? The person passed away that Motzei Shabbos. Everybody was shocked. All the Talmidim were like, whoa, but what happened? So he explained that this man was a little bit involved in this, self-indulging situation where he wasn't really genuinely wanting to fast for Hashem, for whatever else he wanted to accomplish spiritually. But his whole life force was coming through this klipa of feeling self-important and holy, that all these people are going to be lining up, the whole entire shul is going to be lined up and wishing me a good Shabbos. That's what gave him life. What ended up happening is that the following week, once the stone was removed, he didn't have where to sit. Okay? I guess, I don't know, maybe the benches were attached to the tables. I don't know exactly. He didn't have koyach to schlep a chair from his house. Okay, so he wasn't able to sit there and receive this kavod. Okay? So he no longer had chayas to live. You see? So, and that's a very extreme story. not that I want to, scare anybody, chas v'sholom. But it's at least gives us, a certain perspective into like, oh, like what is it my intention that really triggering my avodah? Like, what is it? Is it something coming from the right place? Now, that doesn't mean I don't want, my sister, she went through medical school. Okay. So she told me that in third year of medical school, okay, it's a very dangerous year. Why? Because they learn pathology. Okay, and then every disease that they learn, they think that they have it, the students. And they start self-diagnosing themselves. So the professors tell them, like, okay, watch out. Not every disease that's out there you have, and most probably you don't have any one of them. Okay? So again, this is a spiritual illness, which we are describing. Okay, now it doesn't mean that you go home, okay, and examine every single thought that pops into your mind. Is it really coming from my genuine thirst to Hashem? Or is it, I'm sick with this, with a spiritual disease or anything like that, right? We should avoid doing that, because the whole purpose is we first need to get acquainted, and have enough information and have enough tools, so then we could really apply it to ourselves. Try to avoid applying it to self. It's like, imagine you're learning about one spiritual disease, okay, that's out there. That's, when a person doesn't really want to know Hashem, and he just wants to do it for wrong reasons. Okay, like this man with a stone, and the story with Baal Shem Tov, that he was ready to suffer and not eat for one entire week just to get that pleasure from being noticed and appreciated and all that. Okay, so that's really, really interesting. So we could feel, the flow of all these 8 paragraphs, okay, where he establishes a very, very clear boundary and understanding as to why, right? And now also through what tools the hispaalus is coming. Okay, it could be spontaneous, as we already established, right? when we get inspired by a godly person or a godly experience, and the essence of neshama just reveals itself through oneg, which is totally fine. Like if somebody's going to give us a beautiful basura, a beautiful, amazing news, we might feel very excited, dancing and everything else. Or we might feel getting all that. Or at the same time, we might feel not such positive emotions, right? And they're also genuine, okay? And the reactions of, how we engage with that emotion this is genuine reactions. Here we're talking about pretending to be something that we are not, or pursuing relationship with God, but only so we could attain pleasure. Okay, and nobody would want to be in a relationship if we only used for pleasure. Okay, so then we become objects. Okay, nobody's really interested in a relationship with us. So we could definitely relate to Hashem not wanting reveal himself for that particular, for the consciousness of that particular individual, because they don't have that interest. Okay, they just want to hang around. They don't want a true engagement with Hashem. So when we are engaging with this with these thoughts specifically about this paragraph number 8 and paragraph number 9, it's good to, one hand, not to really get hooked up with it, but at the same time also clarify, like any intention that we have is like, why I want it. What is, no, don't worry about Shayna. Yeah, we figured. Yeah, so Shayna just wrote that she had some, network issues. That's fine. Okay, anybody has any particular question they wanna fill, they wanna fill in something, speak about their experiences that they might be experiencing, please feel free to do so. No? Everybody's very quiet. Gabriela, you want to share something?
I could say
Very
it's
shy.
very intense. It's a very intense story. Probably everyone's just processing it along with me. The guy was
Yeah.
getting his life force energy from the validation, and it's just an invitation to look and be more honest with myself and see where that lands for me. I'm assuming probably everybody's figuring out if we have any like over dependency in an area of our lives like that, maybe without even realizing we don't want to have to die for it.
Right. But again, Shayna, it is a very intense story. It's every time I hear it, I'm like, wow, that's it's even intense for me. Like I heard it probably 20 years ago, but I still feel very intense. It's like, wow, ad kedei kach, it's like it really takes you back.
I think
Obviously,
also we can use it from the other aspect. And if we know somebody who very much needs validation, then we can really help them be at their best by validating them.
no, we could validate, but I think I'll tell you what it is. I think the validation is overly used in our time specifically. I think it just becomes like a pursuit on its own. Not that we don't need to validate people. People make an effort, you say thank you appreciate them and all that. But if it's like overly, these are normal human validations, but then when it becomes the purpose of life, I think that's what we're talking about. The regular basic validations of appreciation, We see it coming from the Rebbe all the time, validating and appreciating people who do things for the Rebbe, and so on and so forth. We see that by all the Rebbe. But we're talking about when it becomes a sickness, where I'm worthy in my own eyes only if I'm being validated. I feel loved only when somebody loves me. I feel, meaning like I'm constantly have to get a confirmation from the outside world to see my self-worth. And it's a big, I think it's a big issue in our society that no, it doesn't have to be like that. Okay, because there is Hashem who loves me. I don't have to seek validation elsewhere. And on the contrary, the more I stay on the vibration of love from within, the more I'll see it being aligned on the outside. Okay, the more I appreciate myself, not from egoistic stance. You understand? It's like, it's in yesterday's hayom. Right? A person needs to know his milas and his hisfreinas. So the question is why you need to know his hisfreina or milas. So he can work with his milas on his hisfreinas, meaning a person needs to know his value. It doesn't come from ego. It's knowing what are my talents and what I need to work on. It's just being honest with themselves. And I think we kind of like, at least, a lot of people who I'm speaking with, it's like outside world is going to determine how I should be feeling today. I think it's like over dependence of what people will tell me about me. So that's what will shape my understanding of myself. And I think it's quite a dangerous thing. And we see that with big politicians. We see that on a big arena with different people, where this, quiet attachment, that's what Elokus is. That it's not dependent on any external faculty. That's what being pnimi is. Being pnimi is having such clarity of my inner structure that nobody on the outside could shake it. Yeah, like I have a connection with a genuine simcha that people cannot just say nasty things to me and I'm going to be sad. Like I know myself on such a deep level that I don't need other people's approvals because I have approval of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So having that inner, like really exercising, having that inner ability to deeply connect with Hashem, I think it's a very, very healthy thing to do because, and having these external factors dictating us how we should be feeling inside. I think that's what, for me, Kuntres Hispaalus is about, where I'm aiming to understand myself through my true connection of Hashem, because truly everything exists because Hashem exists. And it's not a worldly precision who is me. Yes, Shana, go ahead.
Thanks. I have a question, and it's a little subtle. I really love this, and I regret that I'm late because this is like my favorite class. Because because I feel like it's an idol worship to make something the source of my validation, my self-respect, my self-confidence. And for me, it would be a person. Like sometimes I decide, sorry about background noise, I'm walking. So I feel like if that everything on the outside is all one big like soup of Hashem, and then like I shouldn't make one thing of it more important than the other thing, because it should all be the outside. Like someone told me a good experiment, like a practice, is to listen to all the sounds and hear that it's like imagining none of them are closer or further, like they're all just sounds. So the whole outside world is just outside, so that I could connect with the inside and then recognize that. But I guess if it's like the inner fire, when does there become a point that it's just fire? Like, I guess what I'm saying is inner and outer. I feel like it's this dance, but you're kind of describing it that we could let the whole outside world go and it's like separate. But if it's also Hashem, like, do you understand? I don't even know how to ask my
I
question.
understand. What you're saying is my outer world is also an expression of Hashem. So how do I know when to listen to what? Right?
And I understand I can't source I can't look at the outside world as my source, but doesn't if there is Hashem's oneness, I guess my challenge with this is I definitely don't want to be the guy in the story. And even if it's not a crowd of people, it could be one person for me that I decided on, but it's like subconscious. Maybe they remind me of my father, my mother. I'm working on it, but I guess how do you know I guess you did understand my question. And maybe I just need to say it out loud. How do you know when it's really like the inner fire and it's like on the outside, or if it's
That's why I'll tell you, that's why when we study Hasidus, it gives us a perspective of who is our neshama is and who is our essence. And it's our ability to connect to our true self and really recognize our own greatness, but not from a perspective of an ego, but from a perspective of being liberated from our other ways of how we express ourselves that may not be so great. It's there's actually a beautiful kavanas, to keep in mind whenever man or woman toivel in a mikvah. It's from Baal Shem Tov, and it's really, really beautiful. I would want to share it with you because so what what mikvah has? Mikvah has 3 dimensions, right, to it. One is the hard floor, right? Then you have 4 walls that's filled with water, mayim chaim, right? So then there is whenever a person dips himself completely, immerses himself in the mikvah, then there's a space between the person's head and the water. Yeah, the top edge of the water. So it actually represents, 3 names of Hashem. The hard floor, it's Shem Adonai, right? That's how it's hard, right? It's how we express ourselves in this world at that given moment. Everything, good, bad, our emotions, and bichlal, like how we interact, how we express. This is who we are at the moment, right? And the key word here is at the moment. Why? Because the other stage, it's 4 walls of the mikvah, and this is the name Yud Ke Vav Ke, and also the water. The water, it's something flowy. It's not hard. It's our potential. The water could take shape of any vessel it's being put in. Poured in. We are not limited by that limited expression that defines us as a hard floor of the mikvah, right? I might experience anger, but I am not anger. Meaning that limitation is not a permanent limitation. It's just a temporary expression of me based on all my life experience. That's so far how I'm expressing myself. Now, our potential is completely endless. Anything we want to become, we could become. Okay? So, knowing that, okay, so we are dipping ourselves in the mikvah. ultimately, that's what provides us with purification process from whatever tumah we were involved in, right? And that goes men and women, because the whole process, of karbanos and in the Beis Hamikdash and all that stuff involved dipping for men and for women from whatever, tumah they were engaged in. Now, interestingly, this is not enough. Why? Because me immersing myself in my endless potential doesn't provide purification. Because purification is me re-emerging, right? And that's already a different name of Hashem. It's Eki Asher Eki. Me immersing myself in endless possibilities is not purification. I need to re-establish what I do want to be. Have that clarity. Not that I am nothing. I could be anything. That's not enough. Or I could let go of who I am, but I still haven't determined who I want to be. Okay, so then there is the step of the water between the head of the person and the end where the water ends. Okay, this is what a person determines to be from now on. Okay, and that's where the Tara actually, a person becomes pure not when he immerses fully in the water, when he actually comes out of water. That's when it becomes pure. When we reestablish the boundaries of how we are going to express ourselves from now on. A new ways of expression, which is clear and determined. Okay, that has new boundaries to it. And we could endlessly do it. And we see with Baal Shem Tov, he's sharing with us, these kavanas. That's where all the miracles by the Baal Shem Tov used to be, because he was the owner of his own destiny and destiny of so many Yidden who went to him, where he was able to change the destiny by going into mikvah, because that's where you could really tap into your unlimited potential. And if a person on the level of heart floor was childless, for example, right? That doesn't determine him. He has endless possibilities. By him dipping himself in the waters of mikvah, he was able to draw down a new identity for that person, where that new identity had a child. Okay, so it's just very interesting understanding of ourselves also, that we have this endless potential, and we're able to change things. This is in our own hands. It's not set in stone. And that's why it's interesting. That's already my twist, that in Chabad we toivel that we let go of the floor completely. By some other, it's a kosher way of tevila, where you still stay on the floor and then you just dip forward, but you still hold on to the floor. In Chabad, it's usually, we toivel like a fish, horizontally, fully. And when you need to let go of the floor completely. And it's beautiful, because who wants to hold on to past? Who wants to hold on to our limited expressions of self? We want a renewal. We want to have something new. We want to become the best version of ourselves, the unlimited version of ourselves, right? So we dip into this unlimited potential, but we want to come out with something concrete. What is it? One of the biggest greatness of Hashem is that what does this mean? That you open up your hands, right? And you satisfy every living creature based on the ratzon. This is the true meaning of this pasuk. This is the greatness of Hashem. That Hashem is not only like, oh, I'm this great guy, I have this, mega plan, I don't care about what you want. That's not Hashem. That's something else. It maybe Goyim have this perspective of Hashem. Okay, Hashem truly wants to do our desire. And that's by the way, if you don't say this pasuk with kavanah, you're not the psuki de zimra, which is the praise of Hashem. It's based on every creature's desire. That's the true greatness of Hashem, that he actually listens to every person's request. And we will be very surprised if we will listen to our own requests, that we're very quietly requesting Hashem. And usually Hashem listens to it, not usually, all the time He listens to it. He gives us what we ask for. Okay, but then if we have that clarity and conviction, obviously we're able to reveal the brachos of Hashem in a much easier and more clear way. That's already that second process. When we dip ourselves in this water that's completely unlimited, and I could become anything I want. What am I determining to be? Okay, what is my conviction? What am I posking on myself to be? That determination is very, very essential, because that's what will reemerge from the mikvah. Do I have clarity in that? So the clarity of kavanah is essential. What is that we want? Okay, 1:30. If no more questions, I'll let you go. So please review the 9th paragraph, and B'ezrat Hashem, I'll put up the summary, B'ezrat Hashem, and I'm working on creating few slides like we do for Shari Yichud class, so you could really kind of like skim through it more of a mind map style, where we could keep the concept and keep the flow of the whole mimer, so we don't get lost, because he is mentioning a lot of details. And okay, all right. It looks like you guys got mesmerized.
Thank you for class so much. I appreciate it, Mila.
Sure. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
And B'ezrat Hashem, I'll see you next week.
Avodas Hashem.
Thank you. That was like a beautiful meditation, by the way, with the mikvah.
Oh, really?
I was
Okay, good.
a lot of noise, so I couldn't come off. But I just wanted to thank you for that. I felt that you transmitted to me like the inner fire. You did a good job at the inner fire, because something in me turned on and was like, oh yeah, come. I just remembered the orientation. It's like looking from inside or looking from the outside in a way. But you can never really look from the outside. So then it's like a space. So you reminded me, like, come from the inside. I feel like that was a great, I'm sorry for the outside noise. You just put me into such a great place that I'm sharing like machines, but maybe things are under construction. It's all good. Thank you. Have a great week and a good Chodesh.
Beautiful. Good Chodesh. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.